Marshall of Kansas, Republican from Kansas, and Peter Welch of Vermont, Democrat from Vermont. Senators, thanks for being here. I wanted to start by talking about this piece of legislation that you're working on, trying to get rural America connected. It's called Reconnecting Rural America, as far as introducing this effort to expand high-speed broadband in rural communities where broadband access is limited. And if you look at this graphic, lack of access to high-speed broadband, 8.3 million U.S. homes and businesses, and it's really affecting kids most of all. Senator Marshall, first to you.
Well, Brett, my mom grew up on a dead-end road in the middle of Kansas without electricity till 8th grade. Eventually they got water, eventually they got a phone service even. So in today's rural America, this high-speed internet is as important as electricity was then. We made great progress, but this is a job that's never been finished.
Well, that's right. And there's two things in our bill. Number one, we want to make certain that whatever infrastructure is built for rural broadband, it's future-proofed, that we're not going to ultimately see in 5 or 10 years as technology improves that rural America becomes second-class America. And Roger explained very well why we absolutely have to have it. The second thing is we're going to make the various programs that are quite confusing to many folks in rural America about how to get broadband, make that a lot more efficient.
And the prospects of this, Senator Marshall, are pretty good as far as you guys are working together, but is it going to pass? Is it going to get done?
Well, Brett, I'm always very proud of the work that we do on the Agriculture Committee. Peter and I are on the Agriculture Committee in the House. Now we're on the Senate. We have a long history of working together. The last farm bill passed with 85 of the 100 senators voting, and that's the challenge before Peter and myself this time around, is to get to that 85. But I have a lot of faith in Deb Stabenow and John Bozeman, the committee chairman and the ranking member. I think it has a great chance of passing.
Another thing you all are working on is this drug transparency, and I've talked to a number of other senators on both sides of the aisle working on this. This is the Drug Transparency and Medicaid Act. Here is an oncologist testifying on the House side about why this is really important.
They essentially rip a critical component of the patient's treatment out of our hands simply so they can profit. And as any oncologist will tell you, forcing patients to use PBM mail-order pharmacies for potentially life-saving cancer drugs is often unreliable, unsafe, and wasteful. Who knows best to treat my patients, me or some faceless profit-seeking corporation?
What's happened here is, number one, there's incredible pricing power that these PBMs have, and they can control it and make it very opaque, so we're paying way more than we can afford and way more than we should. The second thing is they're ripping off our community pharmacies. And, that local community pharmacy where it's a person who is asking you how's the medication going and making some adjustments, that personal care that we need, and these local pharmacies that have been closing one after another, the PBMs have much to do with that. So Roger and I are aligned on this as well. We think that rural America is a vibrant place.
You're working together on a number of different things. When you talk to people at home, they always say, listen, Washington spends going out the door, but are they spending the right way? And Senator Marshall, you both have different votes on the debt ceiling bill for different reasons. But how do you talk to somebody about that? You talk to them about working across the aisle with Senator Welch and others?
Right. I think bottom line is we want to do the most efficient programs possible with the dollar. So Senator Welch and I are out in our communities in rural America, Vermont and Kansas, and listening. We're figuring out what's working, what's not working. This Reconnect program we talked about earlier is a program that is working, vitally important to not just farmers and ranchers, but also our doctors as well. So I think it is about us working together. Again, whether you're in rural Kansas or rural Vermont, it's still the same challenges, the same. We have a lack of people for the jobs we have. We have educational challenges as well, but certainly rural broadband, the price of prescription drugs, both in Vermont and in Kansas, the community pharmacists are in many cases the last healthcare person standing, and these pharmacy benefit managers are knocking them off one by one.
So we can approach this on the fight that we have all the time. It's very much in the news. But the way I think Roger and I try to approach it is he'll ask me, hey, how is broadband in Vermont? I'll ask, Roger, how are your community hospitals doing? And when we start the conversation where it's grounded, and each of us trying to help the people we represent, it turns out that the challenges that Roger's people and the challenges that our Vermont people have are oftentimes the same. And it makes it easy to then work together because it's mutually beneficial. And I'd like to see us do more of that in Congress, and we can have some big fights and disagreements about what's the overall taxing situation or how much we spend and what we should do in Ukraine. All of these things will go on. But bottom line, we serve the people we represent.
Yeah.
And those of us who represent rural communities feel very strongly about the dignity of rural America and all it has to offer to our country.
I want to end with this. This is Senator Marshall from a recent hearing. Take a look.
I hope that you all would support me that how important milk and the milk products are to the programs that you run. So just bear with me a moment here. It's so good.
June 1st is World Milk Day. I did not know that, but both of you come from milk states, so that's another thing you guys agree on.
You know, absolutely. Dairy is very important to Vermont and Kansas as well. Proud to represent the dairy industry. Everyone should have a glass of milk today. Make it whole milk. It tastes better anyway. Prevents osteoporosis. It's good for you. Helps absorb fat, soluble vitamins. Peter and I are in together on this milk.
You're a milk senator as well.
I like chocolate milk, too.
Oh, chocolate milk. My kids like chocolate milk. Senators, we appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on Common Ground.